The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to our weekly shout-out here, the UAB Director's Chair. He is the UAB Athletic Director. You see him on the left-hand side of the screen here on our YouTube channel. I'm Tony Kurre from Tony Kurre Radio. You get to hear the show at least 5 days a week, and, of course, wherever you get your favorite podcast. And, again, right here on our YouTube channel, you can actually watch us talk about some of the things we'll get into. It is mid-January this year. I don't know about you. This year is already – I don't know if it's because the way the holidays fell or something. It feels like it should be like January 2nd, and it's already pushing on the 20th. I don't even know what's going on, man. How are you doing? You doing okay?
I'm doing great, Tony. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. You normally, after college football season ends, things slow down a little bit. We kind of move our sights towards college hoops for good reason. And obviously, there has just been an absolute landslide of information. The news is cycling. You throw in the Nick Saban news, which was just unbelievable. And you throw in, the Jim Harbaugh news that perhaps he's going to be going to the National Football League. And, of course, they win the national title. Also saw something early this morning. It's hard to believe, but college football will be spending over $200 million. $200 million because of coaching changes in 2023, which is just, it's unbelievable. And obviously Jimbo Fisher was a big nut of that, which I think is just unbelievable. Isaiah Bond, the kid who caught that 4th and 31 pass, guess what? He wants to go to the transfer portal. Go figure. You just made one of the biggest plays in Alabama football history, and you don't want to be part of something in the history. So we've talked about that. Let me back it up just a little bit here, because there's a lot to unfold here. We were talking about the Jim Harbaugh situation, right after he won the national title, and then of course the Nick Saban situation. And I think you and I actually had the conversation because we did a show since he left. And a lot of people were like, maybe he just got tired. Maybe Nick Saban just got tired of all the hullabaloo and all the stuff he has to deal with the NIL and with the transfer portals and all these things. And I was surprised because he does not let distractions bother him, and he's always been a guy who is he transferred his power not only to his advocates and the people underneath him to handle a lot of his dirty business, but he normally says, okay, if this is the way it's going to be, fine, we'll figure something out, right? And so for him to give it up now at the age of 72 and it so suddenly happened, and I don't think it was sudden, was a little bit of surprise. And then when people are telling me that Jim Harbaugh could win a national title at Michigan, and then he right away starts looking at the National Football League, everyone could start making an argument. It's a lot easier to be a head coach in the National Football League. And we would have never said that maybe 10 or 15 years. You'd think as you go up the pecking order, it'd be certainly the way to go. But what does that say about college football? And is that kind of a black eye that your national championship coach could leave and go to the pros the following season?
No, you're saying it wasn't that way. I disagree. It's always been easier in the NFL. And all I mean is, what's harder is you have people who, as coaches, basically have PhDs in football. Mm-hmm. So the X's and O's and the out scheming part is really hard because everybody is really smart and all the athletes are superior. So you're talking about, how much more superior are we than they? But everyone is superior in terms of talent and superior in terms of scheme and all that kind of thing. You got a lot of really smart people. What has always been easier is, as a coach, you don't recruit. If you're an NFL coach, you don't recruit. They have a whole department of people that scout. You might go watch a little film on somebody, but that's not really your job. Yeah. You have a general manager and a whole scouting department to go find and draft the talent. Depending on the structure of your organization, surely the head coach gets to weigh in on, hey, I really want to keep Curry. We think he's going to develop into a difference maker or not. But that's not their job. As they always say, you want to ask me to make the meal, at least let me buy the groceries. Mm-hmm. But in the NFL, they don't buy the groceries. And so there's no academics. They don't have to deal with academic eligibility. If you get in trouble, the NFL has a strict set of rules and policies in place that if you do a thing, they've already got a structure that you're fined by the league or fined by the organization. I mean, heck, if you're late to a meeting, you might have $1,000 fine because you were late to a meeting. And it's just what they do. They just dock your pay. There's no, they're not like making you run after practice or yelling at you. They just you get fined, period. Yeah. And so it's just football. And like the off season is an actual off season if you're a coach. So I don't want to say that it's easy from a game management standpoint. That part is probably harder, but the 12-month job is a ton easier. And they don't do nearly the appearances, the public appearances that the college guys do. I mean, our college coaches, we're asking them to go over, hey, we're going to take you, coach, over to the dorm, and we want you to meet. We're trying to rally up as many students will meet in the dorm lobby. And, hey, we want you to go out on the campus screen here or the quad or whatever you got, and there's going to be some sort of group there, and we want you to talk to them. We're trying to drum up interest in the game. Those NFL guys don't do any of that.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What makes a college coach different than a pro coach? What makes now? I always thought that Jim Harbaugh, he's obviously, and Pete Carroll did this too. They coached at both levels and were successful somewhat at both levels. Certainly Jim Harbaugh more than Pete Carroll. And so I look at him and I think he's a little bit of aloof. And now that he's won a national title, perhaps they'll earn him a little bit more respect at the National Football League level. But I look at him and I'm thinking, I'm making $30 million a year. I'm not listening to this knucklehead who's drinking glasses of milk in his khaki pants. Okay, I'm just not. And maybe I am. So I don't know how that's going to go over if he ends up going to the Chargers or goes by the National Football League. I just think he's kind of funny that way. But I can certainly see where that works in college, because you're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-olds. What is the biggest difference between a college coach now and a pro coach?
Well, again, the job duties there are more job duties on a college coach than a pro coach. The pro coach, while there is still mentoring to be done to, let's say at youngest, probably a 21-year-old would probably be the youngest player that they ever have. You got to be 3 years out of high school. So if you were a young high school guy, you probably never deal with anybody under the age of 21. And it's probably more like 22 or 23 and above. And so the college coaches are the ones taking them from probably a youngest 17 to oldest 23. There's just a lot of growing up to do. The college coach is dealing with them being away from the house for the first time ever, having to manage themselves going to class for the first time ever, having to manage getting themselves up and out of bed and dressed and doing their own laundry for the first time ever. Just like every single thing you do in your life that's very normal to you and me. If you go back to when you were a freshman in college, where will I eat tonight? I don't know, man. You got to think of this yourself. Mom's not here to tell you, I made this. Here you go. You got to make it yourself or get yourself over to the cafeteria or go to the grocery store and put a meal together and then come home and cook the meal. Like there's just things like that, life experience that college coaches and we in the athletic department help manage, that when they get to the NFL, we've hopefully taught them some of these life skills, not certainly all of them, but it's just a different set of issues. Now, what the NFL guys are dealing with, and I'm not sure the coaches have to do this much other than occasionally if a player asks them, but the NFL teams, the NFL itself and the teams may do financial literacy programs for these guys. But again, that's not on the coaches. That's on the organization choosing to do that because they observe that these guys have gone from having little to no money to poof, all this wealth and people around them wanting to pull at them. And so, again, the Pittsburgh Steelers might do that, but the Arizona Cardinals might not. I don't think it's a requirement. It's just a matter of if each team chooses to do it or if the NFL puts a program together. But your question was about the coaches. The coaches aren't the ones doing it. Yeah. I think both coaches, college and pro, have to inspire. They have to inspire people. And the older they get, probably one of the challenges is these guys make so much money. You as a coach are now trying to talk to a person who makes dramatically more money than you do. They as a player than you as a coach. Not everybody, but some of them. And so there's an ego there that you got to deal with, and it's really hard. And I think what's hard for the players there is they can make a mistake thinking that they're irreplaceable. Right. And we can name some players who are exceptional players, but became really difficult to deal with. And then they can't find a team. And you think, well, how's that possible? And it's because, you and I might play the same position and you're a 9.5 out of 10 and I'm a 8.5 out of 10. But if you're really difficult, they'd rather have me when I'm that guy that's like, Coach, I'll do whatever you can, whatever you need, Coach. I'm happy. I'm here to help. You want me to field punts? Sure, Coach. You need me to snap the quarterback? Sure, Coach. Hey, you need me to carry that, water across the field to help out the manager? Sure, Coach. Whatever I can do. Like if you like, that's what we all want that. Like I want that here. We all want people who are willing to do a little more than their job duties require, rather than my contract says I don't have to do that. I'm not doing that. You can't find me, or you can't, like nobody wants to deal with that.
Yeah.
So
can you talk a little bit, because you've been in the business of football for such a long period of time. Can you just tell me a little bit about what's going on with the running back of the National Football League? I just think it's a miraculous story. It is a position that seems like it's so important when you're winning football games. When you're running the football successfully, you're winning football games. You're just doing that. We saw that with the Tennessee Titans. We saw that with the LA Rams in the playoffs. And then when you're not running the football, you're not winning football games. So obviously that's a very important part of the National Football League. Yet they drop these guys like flies. I mean, Dalvin Cook, it's like you can go from like a 200-yard game one week and the next week you're being cut. And obviously you're going to get picked back up again, and then you're going to have to work. And they're not making the money that anyone else is making. Can you just talk about what the running back means in the National Football League and why it flips so fast?
Yeah, well, the NFL is about scoring. And so the reason the passing game is so prevalent is that, you can just take up bigger chunks of yards faster than running the football. So as offenses have become more sophisticated, quarterbacks are better, more accurate passers, stronger arms. You can just do more with a greater probability. When the pass first became legal in the game, the forward pass, it was, I'm exaggerating, but it was almost like Hail Mary. Let's see what happens. Maybe a Hail Mary, and I don't mean literal, like throw it 50 yards. I'm just saying, like, it was so unrefined. It felt like, oh my gosh, this risk. They threw the ball in the air. Did you see that? In the air. He threw it to him in the air, and he had to catch it. Can you believe he caught it? It was just remarkable when you could throw and catch and make a completion. Oh my gosh, we did that. What, forward pass? What do you call it? It's a forward pass. And so that was new and exciting and different. Over time, that's evolved in a way that the probability has increased significantly. Athletes spend more time being better at catching it, being better route runners, getting open, all that stuff. And so your question, though, was about the running back, but it's how the running back position has been diminished until the moment, as you said, now we need to slow it down. We need to eat up the clock.
Yeah.
And so it's also a combination, which isn't talked as much about, is it's not just the running back, but the offensive line's ability to move people out of the way. We got really good at pass setting, because we're going to pass set and set back and pass set and defend the defensive end and the blitzing linebacker. I've specialized in that. Okay, yeah, but now can you turn into a bulldozer, and instead of setting back, can you get forward and road grade out of the way? I don't care who you got in the backfield. You can't move the defense around. They're no good. Yeah. But both of those things, the skill of run blocking, as well as finding a durable tailback, and then the reason that they're not expendable, but they just get beat up. They just get flat beat up, man.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. I watched that Michigan game where they ran the ball 32 straight times. I just don't understand. Just do that one time, and it will lay you up for 3 weeks. You throw me out there one time, and I'm done. I'm finished.
Yeah, their toughness level, to me, has got to be greater than any position on the field. They got to be fast. They got to be strong. They got to be superior athletes. They got to have great vision. They got to have the ability to start and stop and move and cut and jump and whatever. And then at the same time, while I'm running straight at you, I may not see that defensive tackle hit me from the side or that other linebacker, or that's, I'm about to approach the safety and I think I'm going to take on the safety. I'm going to run through or try to run around, and then poof, you get hit by somebody you didn't even see. And that somebody might weigh 240 to 340 pounds, hit you at their full speed, which, by the way, is really, really fast, almost as fast as you, the tailback. I mean, the difference between 4.4 and 4.7, I mean, I don't know that you feel that difference. I know that if we race, there's a difference, but I'm not sure that on impact, there's a difference. They both hurt.
Let me ask you this. You're a proud dad. You got yourself a son, and you can build him any way you want, a hybrid son, if you will. He's going to be, let's go 290. Let's go 6'5", 6'4", 6'5". And for the most part, relatively healthy. And you want to build him into a college and then perhaps a professional football player. What position, and we could probably spend a year on this, from a monetary standpoint, from how long they play in the National Football League to how often they get injured, smartness that is obviously that comes into play to have the brains to be able to play that particular situation. What would be the position you'd want your son to play in the National Football League? Would it be another player, tight end? I mean, the tight end has come out of nowhere in the last 10 or 15 years, and they're the baddest ass football players I've ever seen. I mean, the Kittles of the world, these guys are unbelievable.
Yeah, 290.
It's unbelievable. And you see those guys getting absolutely hammered every single week, and they're getting up, and it's like you don't have a scratch on them. It's just amazing. Or is it an offensive lineman who, their job is not to move a whole lot, but when they do, they just need to move a lot of weight at one time. What would be the position you would say to your son, this is going to be the best position for you to make it to the next level and live your life as an NFL player? What would you say? And then again, you're talking about quarterbacks. Yeah, well, you're one good hit away from being knocked out for 3 years.
Yeah, well, 6'5", 290 is not going to be a tight end because of the weight, but maybe a guard center, something like that is probably where they're going to be. And I'll let you move. I'll let you move the weight around a little bit if you want. If you want to figure out a way to make it a little. Listen, tight ends play a lot longer than left guards. I don't know. How about 6'5", 200 and let them punt, and they'll be the biggest punter ever. And healthiest punter ever.
That's cheating. No, let's take kickers off, because kickers have made their own days too recently. Let's take them, because you used to be, if you were 14 or 17, you were a Pro Bowler. Now, unless you're hitting 38 in a row from inside 40 yards, you ain't worth a squat. Let's take kickers and punters off. We have to take them off the table. They don't count.
Their abilities, and it's funny when you watch the NFL and college, you see those guys, they look little. Walk up next to like an NFL punter, and they no joke, they're like 6'3", and they're 200 pounds. It's like, that's bigger than anybody I know. I mean, he's not as big as the defensive tackle, but he's bigger than any guy in my neighborhood. Like,
that's amazing.
They're not little people. They just look little because they wear like knee pads for shoulder pads, and they have like a 1-bar helmet. They just wear small equipment that makes them look puny, but they're not. These are big, fit guys. The safest position, what would that be? I would say the safest position's got to be an interior lineman on the offensive side, and that's because the defensive guys, they can get bounced around sometimes, and it's hard. I think it's probably harder for them to stay durable. Defensive players have to fly around like maniacs at times, and your guard center probably is and I guess your tackle, but mainly your guard center probably has the greatest ability to last, as a big person. And then, maybe a receiver, but if you want to be an elite receiver, you don't want to have to be that guy that goes across the middle,
Yeah.
If you got to be that slot guy that goes across the middle, man, you better watch out for that safety, that fast outside linebacker that might catch you on an underneath route. I don't want to have to feel that either, rattle your teeth out of your head.
I look at a guy like Adrian Peterson, who's just had an incredible career in the National Football League, and probably one of the longest careers as a running back. I mean, I totally get what these guys are. I don't expect McCaffrey to play another 2 or 3 years. He didn't have to. I mean, he's
Right.
making more money as a running back than most guys are, even if he gets franchised. And he still has his brain. It still works at the age of 29 or 30. I mean, I'm not going to be running the football when I'm 31, 34 years old. And certainly the Tom Brady's playing to their 45 is it's ridiculous. It's crazy. And really, I'm sitting here looking at Joe Flacco this past weekend at the age of 38, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, I mean, that's pretty incredible. And one of the best road records of any football players, won a Super Bowl. I don't know if he's a Hall of Fame guy. But the age of 38, the fact that he's still back there, it doesn't take much of a hit to knock a guy like that. But I'm just wondering to myself, I wonder if there is some type of algorithmic or some type of analytical formula you could put in there and say, listen, I want to get 6 or 7 years out. I need to make X amount of dollars so I don't have to work another job after I get out. And what would be the position in the National Football League that would be? And whether that be the interior lineman or anything else, I mean, and you don't need to be on the front page of the newspaper. That'd probably be the position.
Yeah, I mean, quarterbacks obviously make the most money. But it's just, again, depending on how you play the game, like Lamar Jackson, for example, he runs the ball a lot. I worry, what is his long-term durability, just because he puts himself in even more risk than say a Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, traditional drop back guy. And what's funny is Lamar is a drop back passer, and a great one and very accurate. But he puts himself in situations that like Brady didn't, because Brady chose not to run the ball or seldom ran the ball, as did Peyton. So they took fewer risks in some ways. But he has an ability that they didn't have too. So he's, Lamar's just being an athlete out there playing the game and trying to win. But people who play the game like that, the old Randall Cunningham, going way back to the Randall Cunningham type guy, Michael Vick, some of these guys. And look, even Josh Allen, it's funny, Josh Allen was being compared to Lamar Jackson and to Ben Roethlisberger. And you think, well, these guys aren't the same. But they kind of are, in that Josh is not afraid to run the ball. Yeah, right. And he's not as elusive as Lamar. Lamar is faster and sort of side to side quicker and appears to be, in my opinion, a more creative runner. But Josh is like a banger, and he's big. And so Lamar's hard to tackle because he looks blurry. He's so fast and moving around, and, I'm going to try to tackle you, and, just makes you look foolish. Josh makes you look silly because he's faster than he looks because of his size. You don't
that 34-yarder the other night was like,
you just don't expect a guy of that size to be able to run as fast as he does. And then he's big and he's strong, and so he's hard to take down for a different reason. But these guys that run it a lot or are not afraid to run it, they're just putting themselves out there for big hits. And of course, I was talking to one of my boys the other day, and I don't know if the NFL is looking at this or not. I hope they will. He called it a cheat code, like in a video game. He said the quarterback slide is a cheat code. And I said, yeah, tell me, what do you mean? And he goes, well, you're on defense and the quarterback's coming at you. You think he's going to slide. And if he does slide and you hit him, it's a penalty. So there's another 15 yards on the end of the run. He said, but if you don't go attempt to tackle him and he chooses not to slide, which is what Josh Allen did. And I don't mean he faked a slide. Yeah. I just think those guys started to kind of ease up thinking he's going to slide, and he didn't give himself up, and he barreled through them. Next thing you know, he's high-stepping by some guys and fights a guy off, and he's off to the races. And it's like, it's funny that he called it that. I think he's right. There's a bit of a cheat code there. Like, hey, man, there's these rules to protect the quarterback, and we're trying to abide by the rules, and then you take advantage of that little wrinkle, which is, we're going to pull up. That's what Kenny Pickett did when he was at Pittsburgh. You remember that?
Yep.
In the bowl game against Wake Forest, and he sort of started to slide, but then he didn't, and he jumped up. And
you got to be really good at that fake slide thing. I mean, because it's so bang bang, it's so quick. And listen, Josh. I mean,
Josh didn't fake it. Josh didn't fake slide like Kenny did, but I think those guys anticipated that he was going to.
But you also realize that Josh ain't a slider.
Yeah, well,
but most of the time he's not. I mean, he's done that play a lot more than he has tried to slide. I mean, if he's got three guys around him, he's more likely to go around. And much to the chagrin of his coaching staff, they're like, "Get your ass down. We need you to play." So I would have to say, and you could probably talk about this as well because you're dealing with it now on a daily basis. The NIL for college football players may be a wonderful thing in their development as a product down the road, because we didn't used to have National Football League players selling Subway sandwiches. We didn't have that. You used to have them selling gym shoes and maybe some type of rugwear, something you'd sell them, Adidas. It all had to do with athletic wear. You didn't have guys selling sandwiches, and you didn't have guys selling general life insurance like you do for Shaquille O'Neal. You got guys now. I mean, I saw Chad Ochocinco, for God's sakes. I mean, his star burned out years ago, now he's making $10 million a year. He's making more than he ever made in the National Football League endorsing products. And all of a sudden he's back. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe you're just one of these really nice guys. Maybe you take a couple of acting classes where you can be really good on a camera, and you can be a guy that plays 3 or 4 years in the National Football League and then go make a hell of a lot more money on camera than you can. And I'm not talking about working for ESPN. I'm talking spending a day in Boca Raton filming a commercial for Subway and make more money you could ever making in the National Football League.
Yeah, well, if the college guys, we talk about NIL on the show a lot. If they ever actually do, remember, NIL is name, image, likeness. That is allowing a company to use your name, image, or likeness and pay you like an endorsement, like Mahomes and State Farm. That has nothing to do with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Notice he might wear a red shirt. Oh, yeah, by the way, that is also State Farm's logo color, which happens to be the same color as the Chiefs, but it doesn't say Chiefs on his shirt anywhere.
Nope.
He'll have a red T-shirt. He can have a red T-shirt that has his name on it. He can have a red T-shirt that has his number on it, but it's not a Chiefs jersey, because if it had the Chiefs on it, guess who would also be paid? The Chiefs. So, so there's a handful. There's a couple dozen student athletes out of the hundreds of thousands of student athletes in this country. There are a few dozen maybe that are actually benefiting from the use of their name, image, and likeness in some sort of legitimate endorsement deal. And I'm probably being generous saying that, but that's what it is, a few dozen. The other people are just being paid to play through a collective, and then they have to put out a tweet, and that kind of calls it good. Oh, they did a thing for this service, and so we fight for the NIL stuff, in the industry we argue about it and the rules around it, and what we've got to figure out is a way to eliminate the collectives, which is just a pay-for-play mechanism rather than NIL. It's not NIL. We just need to identify that, or we need to say it's okay. I guess we kind of are, but we kind of blur the line when we need to make an argument for why the collectives are valuable. We'll say, oh gosh, we got to help these kids that are NIL. Well, wait a minute. That's not NIL. NIL is where, they go work. They earn this money based on their name, their image, their likeness. They do a commercial and they endorse a product, and there's a thing that they do.
Yeah.
Some of that's happening in the collective. I mean, again, they're doing the necessary requirement of, they put a tweet out, says support our collective. And, we have a collective, and I hope people support our collective, but we just need to call these things what they are.
Sure. He's Mark Ingram, UAB athletic director, joins us every single week for the UAB Director's Chair. And of course, you can hear at least 5 days a week here on the TKR app, wherever you get your favorite podcast, and obviously right here on our YouTube channel, the Tony Kurre YouTube channel. We're very grateful to have him on every single week. Hoops real quick, and then I want to ask you a classic rock question. Won't keep much longer. I've gotten more fans of friends of mine. I say fans of mine. They know I'm a UAB guy, and they're like, you going to the Memphis game, you going to the Memphis game, you going to the Memphis game. And I'm like, yes. And then every one of them is like, they have no doubt that UAB can knock off a top 10 Memphis squad when they come play. And he's like, could we please just get a game where we have a breather? I just talked to Mark a couple of days ago, and his chest was on the outside of his shirt to watch this team play, because from game to game, they could win every game and they could lose every game. And they're so fun to watch. I know that game's coming up. Just talk about how big that's going to be.
Yeah, well, we played Tulane last night here in Bartow. It was a great game. Tulane, I think, was 11-6 coming into the game. They had Florida Atlantic beat, and as I understand it, as time was expiring, they were Tulane's up 1, and they fouled someone from FAU who was shooting a 3. So he goes to the line, shoots 3 free throws, made 2 of them, and won the game. FAU won by 1 point. That's how they won.
Yeah.
So Tulane, who we beat, is really good, and And we did a great job defending the way we needed to defend, and we made some shots. And we weren't as good from the free throw line last night as we have been recently. Recently, we've been terrific from the line. Last night, not so much. And so had we been more like ourselves, or not even our kind of exceptional selves, we'd made, call it half the ones we missed. We were 52%.
Yeah.
52.9% from the line. If we'd have been, 70% or something from the line, that would have been an okay night. Not necessarily a good night, but an okay night. And the gap could have been even wider. I think we won by 14. And, but it was it was up and back and up and back. And we were up by 3 and down by 1. We were down by 11 in the first half at one point. We do some really good things, but I told Andy that I want to get him and me an executive physical with a stress test to make just to watch the games. Just to make sure we're okay to watch the games.
That's funny. I had one of our other clients on, Stuart Rome from the Woodhouse Day Spa. He's a good friend of mine. He does a show with us every single week called When in Rome with Stuart Rome. And he loves classic rock about as much as you do. And so we talk about the Woodhouse Day Spa, but then he wants to talk about classic rock. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I do that with Mark. We do that every single week. And he's like, great. So this week I let him pick songs to play during the show. And it's kind of a hybrid thing because he picks music. It has to be on Spotify. We can't just run a podcast with music on it because it's got to be licensed. It's a bunch of hooey. Yeah. And so I'm like, that fine. I'll pick that up. I'll do that. And so he wanted to pick 5. He did this thing called Hair Band Heaven today. He wanted to pick 5 bands. And I was like, I'm going to have to throw this at Mark because I know he's going to be all over it. So he picked 5 songs, 5 bands. And I wanted to give those to you. He's like, ask Mark if he likes any of the bands I picked for Hair Band Heaven. So he goes, Skid Row.
Yes, love him. Sebastian Bach, one of the great vocalists.
Okay. He goes with Autograph.
I like, don't love.
All right. He goes with Whitesnake.
Whitesnake is funny. They had some big hits, and they were probably more popular for their music videos that featured Tawny Katane, the model actress. That's probably how they were more popular. They had some fantastic members of that band, though. I mean, I know Steve Vai was one of their guitarists at one point, and I don't think it was Joe Satriani. I don't think he was.
Didn't they have the Ozzy's guitarist? Not Rudy Sarzo. No, who was then?
Rudy Sarzo might have been in there.
Yeah,
Rudy Sarzo was he with Quiet Riot?
Yeah, but I want to say he played for a short stint of time with Whitesnake because
I think he might have. And I was going to say somebody. It wasn't Jeff Beck, but they had a few guys that were like Steve Vai that were like all-star players in that they had a lot of different members. But yeah, I like Whitesnake. I didn't. They were a little too cheesy. They were right up, like I put them with. They're a little bit better than Warrant, and they're a little bit better than like Winger. I didn't like Winger. They were a little too cheesy.
A little too cheesy.
A little bit.
It's funny you say Winger, and thank goodness it's not on this list. And I'm pulling up some of the members. Tommy Aldridge was in there. Reb Beach, Joe Hostra. No, that was it. I'm thinking Tommy Aldridge is probably the guy maybe we're thinking of that was in Whitesnake that we're trying to remember. And the other thing is they're considered a spinoff of Deep Purple because David Coverdale actually played in Deep Purple. So maybe that's a little bit of a spinoff there. He came with Warrant as his 4th band.
Yeah, again, they're just a little cheesy. They were super popular, but I mean, I guess it depends on how he's looking at it, but they certainly were like kind of like Poison in that and Whitesnake, like they kind of help define how do you define what a hair band is, and he certainly did that.
And then he came with a band I just thought you were doing. This is what gave me the idea, Slaughter.
Yeah, again, Slaughter is like Winger and those are all like they kind of fit real well together. That I don't love them. I didn't hate them. They were just okay, and they had like 1 hit or 2 hits. You
should do a hair band night down at Bartow. Have people wear wigs
like that, but you and me. I think you and me would be the only people that were like, yeah, I love that one. Oh man, remember that song? Oh.
Dude, do $5 tickets and then you wear a wig, and then and then you could do like the bear thing where you throw them on the floor and we could give them to like a nursing home or something.
Yeah, the problem is, the young people wouldn't even know what we meant. My kids would be like, what's a hairband?
We need to teach these kids. That'd be hilarious. And then just play all hairband music. Hey, by the way, I had a friend of mine ask me the day, I asked if you were going to bring another disc jockey in. He really liked the fact when the disc jockey came in and spun records during some of your home games. You going to do that again?
We do that sometimes to mix it up.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
I'll get out my Technic 1200s, brother. I can spin them for you.
Ooh, yeah, please do. Get the turntables out.
My SP3, my PVs, I'll bring them down there. Just need someone to load up the Monte Carlo
stack you're going to bring in.
Just have someone to help me load up the Monte Carlo when I'm leaving the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
All right, brother. Thank you very much. I will see you soon. UABsports.com, UABsports.com for information. Thanks for the laugh, and can't wait to see that Memphis game, and of course all the games with your men and women's basketball programs. Thank you, sir.
We got East Carolina on Saturday. Our ladies are playing great. They won another big game against SMU the other day. They're really playing very well, and yeah, we got Memphis coming up. Be a week from Sunday. So yeah, we got a lot going on.
I'll be there, man. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, guys.
See you.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.